Today we're going to show you how to remove the stereo from Volkswagen and Audi with the single DIN and double DIN openings here. There are commonly two different sets of tools needed to do this. The one U-shaped tool, which is most commonly called the Ford DIN removal tool, and that's one. The other can be like a ninja star with three sides, or we've also seen one side with a ring on it. And these tools will help you to remove the stereos from Audi and Volkswagen. This one is a slotted DIN tool. It has some width to it, but it's very thin. And it has an angle at the end as well with a little notch. And these notches are going to be used to lock into the removal pins to remove. Most of these stereos can be a single DIN. This is a single DIN also for Volkswagen, and this will be a double DIN. We're going to start with the older style single DIN. This is the one that has little openings on both sides of the face of the radio. Two little holes and two little holes here as well. And these tools will go into these holes. And what happens here is, before the tool comes in, is the dash, because these clips here, these are what we're trying to get to release the radio from the dash, because the dash itself sits right in here, and these little clips that come up lock it into place. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the tool in to the little slots. These tools will go right in. They should go in most cases and lock right in. And now when you have this in the dash, you can see that the pins, or the locking mechanism, has been pulled down. But when you go to pull this out of the dash, you move these pins towards the outside. It pulls these locks down to be flush along the edge of the radio, and you can pull a radio right out of the dash. But of course you're going to have both tools installed. And with both tools installed, as you go to pull it out of the dash, you grasp both sides of the tools and you pull them towards the outsides, again pulling the locks in and pulling the stereo out of the dash. To remove these tools, you push on the spring mechanism and the tool should remove. Now, we have had some calls and many calls on these tools don't work. What we have found in some cases, someone's removed the radio before you, and these springs get a little bit out of alignment and could have bent or done anything to this side mechanism. So what you do in that case is you take the end of the tool and you put a slight bend in it. That way when it goes in, it can come up further to come down and mate to that clip, because these clips sometimes get pushed out away from the radio, so you have to catch them to pull them in. If that doesn't take care of it, it's going to be a difficult removal. We've had to put screwdrivers up behind the dash to push along the back of the radio to come up to push the clips down. That is one. Now, with the slotted DIN tools, there's several differences here. In Aftermarket, there's insulation is going to be a little bit troublesome with some of these radios too. The slotted DIN tools, again, they have the little notch on them. So you want to have the longer side of this tool go into a little slot on the radio. Now, most of these have a slot here on the bottom right and a slot on the bottom left. That goes for this Audi radio and this Volkswagen Beetle radio. This is the troublesome one to remove from the dash. These tools, again, with the long side towards the outside, we're going to push this tool in, and you can hear it snap into place. Now what that's doing is the same thing the other tool did. We're going to release this one, and you can see right here, this is what's holding the radio into the dash, because the dash is coming right down here and being locked in behind that tool. This tool comes in, and there's a slight little metal piece right here that's going to lock into that notch right there. And again, as you're pulling this radio out of the dash, you want to try and give it some outward pressure, but again, this Volkswagen radio is very troublesome because we've seen this face crack if you're not very gentle with removing this radio. Now, this works again for the removal keys, and the single DINs all work the same way. There are some different configurations. There is one stereo where the slots are within the face of the radio, and the slots could be about this far into the side of the radio, and they go this way rather than this way. Now, the double DIN radios, If you look closely at them, that has a pair of slots at the top and a pair of slots at the bottom. So you're going to need two sets of these tools to remove. Now for aftermarket. Aftermarket, there are several different configurations here. Aftermarket's very simple. When the radio comes out of the dash, you're going to have several connectors on the back of it. And we will have the antenna jack here, which needs to be pulled off. That's just a pull to release. This is not the universal jack, so when you're going aftermarket, you're going to have to purchase the aftermarket wire harness that will mate to this one and give you the one that plugs right into your radio. And since you need the antenna adapter, I suggest purchasing the aftermarket wire harness too. It'll make this job very simple. I can show you that too. We have several configurations of connectors and so on for the backs of these radios when it comes out of the dash. We've already removed the antenna. Here on the back of the radio there can be 2 to 3 connectors. Sometimes these 2 connectors, the black and the brown, can be black and be one solid connector. In some cases the trigger is here on the side of the radio and you push it into the connector, it unlocks and you can pull it right out the back of the radio. That goes along with the other connector here. Most cases this bottom connector is your power connector. This center one is your speakers, and the top one is your CD changer in most cases. Some occasions we've seen this connector be molded as one piece, so you have to push both triggers at the same time when it comes to removing it. The other type of connector we have can be found on some of the Volkswagens here, and Mercedes and Audi and so on. But we're going to have several different connectors here that are going to have little triggers on them for these connectors on the back. You push that little trigger down on them again and they should wiggle loose. This is usually for antennas and so on. The main connector here is going to have a little trigger on it right here at the very bottom, this piece right here. And what we want to do is push that down, and as we push it down, pull this outer ring out away from the back of the radio. So we're going to push that down, and you can see how this hinges out of the back of the radio. And as it hinges out of the back of the radio, it lifts the connector, or pushes the connector out the back of the stereo, and you can remove it. Now when you reinstall this back in the car stereo, you have to make sure that this arm is in the all the way up position, and that will allow you to push it in, and the arm will start coming down on its own. As you push the arm down, it pulls the connector in and locks into place. Now, aftermarket wire harness and antenna adapter. Again, you're going to have to purchase the antenna adapter to go aftermarket, so you should purchase the wire harness as well. The reason being is this is one of the aftermarket wire harnesses, and what we have on the back here are some universal colors. There's a yellow for constant power, a red for switch power, a ground, 2 green, 2 violet, 2 gray, and 2 white, which are speakers, and one has a stripe. Now when you purchase the aftermarket wire harness, these will be the 2 that are in the dash. I have here 3 different aftermarket wire harnesses. They may look similar, but they only fit specific aftermarket stereos. These connectors also all have the universal colors, the yellow, the red, the black, grays, whites, violets, and greens. It just so happens that when you purchase this aftermarket wire harness, this mates color for color to the connector of your car stereo you're installing. And all you have to do is splice these wires together in order to just plug it into the car. In some case, the reason for this wire harness is someday you might want to go back to the original radio when you're selling the car, or you want to get rid of the car and the radio has to be in it, or a radio has to be in it. You can put the original back in. Now, that works for this aftermarket harness. The aftermarket harness for the larger connector will be exactly the same, and you'll also need the antenna adapters. Now, the car stereos, this is the aftermarket wire harness for the other larger connector, so we're going to have to open this connector up. We take the aftermarket wire harness, and it's going to mate right to the connector again. You cut it together. Goes in, mates, pulls the connector down and locks in place. Now again, this is going to give you the universal colors that mate right up to the harness in the car, so there's no need to cut the car wires. Now with these car stereos with the openings, we will just say for conversation reasons that this is the opening in the dash. This is usually a single DIN. Most of these radios here are the single DIN, while the one here on the end is double DIN. Now you get a sleeve that comes with the car stereo, and this sleeve either can be in the box when you purchase it, or it can be already on the radio. But what it does is it slides into the opening of where you're going to install your stereo. It does have a ridge or a lip along one side of it, and that will come in and it will stop right at the opening. Once it does that, you take your flathead screwdriver and you pry these tabs down all along the inside here. What you're doing is you're attempting to pry the tabs down so that it secures this sleeve to the opening in the dash. Now there may be some kits needed here. The reason being is, specifically on the Volkswagen stereo, this is one of the original single DIN style radios, and this radio is the original single DIN size. You can see how some of these radios, the faces are a little bit bigger, so there will be a trim ring that will go into the opening to fill up the rounded edges and make the dash look pretty. If you have any questions or need any help with other aftermarket or installation or removal, see our website, carstereohelp.com. Hope this video has been helpful. Please subscribe, and thank you for watching.